Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now on with the show.
Back, everybody, to another episode of Biters, the podcast of the AMC's The Walking Dead and all things zombie. We had a little new intro there, the Bee Gees Spick and Speck song. Spicks and Specks, is that it?
Sticks and Stones.
No.
I don't know.
Spicks and Specks.
I don't know maybe that was some lingo back in the '60s for girls or something. I don't know, because the Spicks and Specks is in the same line in the lyrics as the "Where did the girls all go?" or "Where did his girls?" But we'll talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Comments on it. Yep.
Anyway, I'm your host, one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick, and with me is Kirk Manley.
What's up, everybody?
So we this episode we're gonna have a little bit. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit shorter than our past couple ones that seem to.
I don't know. I got 13 pages of notes.
Do you really?
Well, you know what's happening. I'm printing larger and larger type because I'm getting older and my eyes I can't see this little stuff. So that's probably why I got so many notes.
Oh, geez.
But we do have one less item. There will be no tweets of the week this week. Because I was indisposed on Sunday night and couldn't live tweet, so I didn't have the time to go back through the feeds and try and find good tweets. So my apologies. We will definitely be back with that next week, and I look forward to hearing your live tweets.
All right, so let's see the numbers this week. The show.
We wish
we're part of it.
Right.
Put up 14.5 million viewers this week. I feel like last week was like 14.9. I can't remember.
I seem to remember 13, but I don't know.
Anyway, so still really good numbers. The other piece of news this week about shows was that the spin-off,
yes,
which used to be called Cobalt, which was probably just a working title.
Yeah, it still doesn't have a set name, does it?
No, it doesn't. Oh. The screenplay I've got, the version of the script that I have that I still haven't read, is it's called Fear the Walking Dead. But the big news is that it hasn't even aired an episode yet, and they've already got a 2-season order on it.
That's awesome. Now the first season's only going to be 6 episodes, just like the first season of the main series.
Right.
I don't know why they do it that way, but that's what they're going to do. So,
but
that's great.
Yeah, and that's supposed to debut late summer.
Yeah, late summer, which is kind of, it's good, but it's kind of weird because the main series will come back. It comes back in the middle, towards the beginning of October, right? It's usually around the time of NYCC. So it's like the 13th, 14th, something like that. I guess if it's only 6 episodes, then that would make sense. It would end, and then there'll be a little bit of break, and then the main series will start. But like we were talking last week, I hope that, and it sounds like it will be the plan, that they'll run this during the off season of the main show.
Yeah.
So that we get, basically zombies 24/7, 365 days. Can't get enough zombies.
So, yeah,
Oh,
so
that's cool.
that'll be interesting. And like I said, I've got if anybody wants to read it, I've got it. I didn't. It's all public domain. That's where I acquired it. So if you want to read it, let me know. I'll
There
send
was
you a
one
copy.
picture they put up with it. I saw. Did you see that? Where the two leads, the male and female leads, are with some third person, and they're standing in a looks like in some sort of a waterway in L.A. You know
Yeah.
I don't know what those things are called. And there's a dead body lying in front of them. I mean, it didn't say much, but it definitely had more of the feel of early in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, it's supposed to
Which
be
is
it's the 20 pages that I've read, the first part that I've read, there is it's got that it's a prequel. It takes place in Los Angeles. So and it is that kind of it's kind of refreshing what little I've read so far because I've one of my big complaints about horror movies and TV shows and stuff is that there's always this automatic ramp up to belief. You know, there's you see the dead walking, you know, rising from the graves, or you see a vampire, or you know whatever creature it is, you automatically run to that assumption. Oh my gosh, it's a vampire. When if it happened in real life, there'd be a more of a oh crap, what the hell is that kind of, you know, there's that kind of disbelief kind of thing. And this actually kind of starts off with the with that kind of feel. It's just weird
does
and
it
strange and just you know
so it
that
picks up right when things are just starting to happen all over the place,
yeah,
and no one
yeah,
kind of understands why or whatever.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah,
the
I'm a little wary of that. I mean, obviously it'll be fresher. It probably gives them a lot more opportunity to have diversity in the cast and locations and the amount of interaction with people because obviously there's more people around at that point, I'm worried of it falling back into a more traditional zombie horror movie trope. What works for me, or what I find appealing about the Walking Dead, is that it is so far into the apocalypse that is now the norm. And it's
mhm.
really not about the apocalypse. It's not about zombies. It's about how are human beings surviving in this new paradigm, this new world. Are they going to be good people? Are they going to be bad people? Are they going to turn on themselves? Are they going to starve to death? Are they going to, and
Well, as you know, we learned a couple episodes, they are the Walking Dead.
right, exactly. I mean, I just don't want it to become another type of, Dawn of the Dead, trapped in a mall, bunch of people, fighting zombies, more of a zombie type of thing. It's like, it's still got to be about the people, or it's not gonna work for me.
Yeah.
But
Well, we'll
but
see.
I'm looking forward to it. Who am I kidding? I will watch it. I will watch it loyally.
All right, so we are on episode 13.
Type
This what episode's
13.
title was?
Forget. I did not forget. I did not forget what the title was. Hey, did you the last two? Haven't found any reference, and I should have Googled it when I couldn't figure it out myself, and I didn't. But maybe if I get a chance while we're working here. But any reference to the title, to the episode number? Did you see anything?
Well, last week I said that I think it was the volumes behind in everybody's video. There was the volumes of the encyclopedia. There were 12 of them. So I think that that's the only one. I couldn't find it in this episode, and I did the same thing. I scoured the internet, and I
right.
couldn't find anything. So anybody who's listening, if you
Yeah,
know time
definitely.
reference or something,
Yeah,
uh,
definitely post that up because I'd be interested in that because I'm definitely convinced that they're doing it for every episode.
yeah, there's got to be something subtle that we missed. You
What do
know,
you?
so speaking of the subtlety, I tell you what, man, when you watch the episode, and we've said for a while now that nothing is throwaway on this show, right? So
Yeah,
you're not just watching,
less
you're not
so all the time.
yeah, you're not just watching the episode for entertainment. Now you're like parsing. It's almost like going frame by frame. Like, what did I miss? I drove myself bananas last week. And again, if somebody could figure this out, post something about it. There was a poster in the room that Carl was in. This is last week. There was a poster when he was sitting on the bed, and on the wall was a poster, and there was like a like the skull of a cow, a cow skull like you see in the desert. Your
Right,
typical
right.
desert shot.
Steer
And
head.
yeah, and it was like rubbish. It was Rubbish Junkie, I think was the name that was on it. And I was like, what the hell is that? That's got to be something.
Right.
And I got to like some obscure Facebook page about a guy who, I don't know, I think makes his own food or something like that. I don't know. And I was like, oh, that's clearly not it. So, you can just go, you can go nuts trying to parse out every
Yeah.
tiny little thing, and then you go on the internet, and that's just a quagmire, of that's just a time suck worse than any new app game that my kids download on my phone. Because I mean, you just go down the rabbit hole of all these. Oh, there's
Yeah.
this meaning, and then there's this, and
Yeah.
your brain just gets so full of stuff that you start believing almost all of it. So
It's amazing how much they and again they've definitely this is ramped up um in the last season or so, I'd say. But all the little details like you're saying, and the significance of the settings and the stuff that's in the environment, that's taking place. I think back to the episode with Tyrese's death, and how, remember how they had the zombie model or the skeleton model kit now on the kid's
yep,
dress. I mean,
right.
just the thinking of what what's going to be in every environment. That must be like they must have multiple people who work on that stuff, because it's wild.
Well, even let's talk about it right now. So you heard the intro in the beginning, the Bee Gees song, "Spicks and Specks." Like, how do you come up with this song? How do you go? That's the song we want to use at the end of this. The end of this episode. So "Spicks and Specks" was written in '66 by, or came out in '66 by the Bee Gees, and it's you know the lyrics. I printed out the lyrics. Where is the sun that shone on my head, the sun in my life? It is dead, it is dead. Where is the light that would play in my streets, and where are the friends I could meet? And then I think the one that was the intro of our show is, where are the girls I left far behind, the spicks and the specks of the girls on my mind.
Right.
So I mean, and that was just it's funny because I don't think anybody now listens to a song on that show without, like, again, getting into the lyrics and like, what are the
Yeah.
lyrics trying to say,
Right. Right.
um so it's, yeah, you
Well, I
go.
think. Well, what was your take on it? What's your interpretation? Did you have any, or are you
Okay,
just
so Spicks and
curious?
Specks, Spicks and Specks for me are, even though it's spelled kind of weird in the lyrics, the Spicks and Specks are the remnants. They're just like the little fragments of memory that are in the person's mind, and he's talking about where are the girls I left far behind. And in his, it's so much time has passed that all he's got are just these little fragments of like what used to be, what used to be there, and it's apropos of this episode,
I think you're
Forget.
nailing it right on the head.
Yeah, and it actually ties in really well with that ending with Rick going up to the fence, and I love that shot on the top of the fence looking down,
Yeah.
where you see the
Yeah.
walker on one side, and they're
Yeah.
not directly across from each other. They're kind of kitty corner to each other, and it was a very the song wasn't bad, but when you look at it in the context of how it's being played in the episode and in that scene, you're like, that's kind of haunting. When was the last
Well,
time
yeah, it
you
was
said
haunting.
A
It's
Bee Gees
just
show was a song was haunting?
and it was disconcerting, and I think was meant to kind of like derail us a little bit, and it was supposed to be kooky. You know what I mean? I think it
Yeah.
was because I think he's teetering. And I'll go into it more as we discuss it, but I think different people represent different amounts or different degrees or different developments of forgetting,
Hmm.
in the show, I think. And he, to me, is one who's on the edge. He's kind of vacillating, to try and accept it, try to believe that this is going to work and everything else, but at the same time can't forget what's the past. I mean, and he's kind of on the middle. He's kind of in the ledge. And I think that song was kind of like kooky, crazy. And you're right. I think the Spicks and the Specks and the people, the girls he left behind, Lori,
Hmm.
the friends that he's left behind, Shane, stuff like that. All of these things that where have they gone? where is that outside world gone that I was living in for a while? And yeah, and I think it's kooky and crazy. And then he goes over and does this crazy kooky thing where he leans up against the wall and listens to the zombie other side. And I have
Yeah.
some theories about what that's about, but we'll get into it later. I know, I agree with you.
All right.
What do you other than I think also I wanted, just since we're talking about the title and its meaning, um, I think it's both their inability to forget and their mistake to forget at the same time.
I agree.
I think it's that, some of them are having a hard time forgetting and it's causing problems. And then others are mistakenly forgetting too quickly, because there needs to be an understanding that, this may be bliss like, but just outside that wall is hell.
Right.
And, but anyway, I think Sasha's pain and anger and survivor guilt, won't let her forget, is making her angry. I think that's a big part of it. Drick is trying to forget but can't. Carol's pretending she's forgotten, but is forgetting probably the least. In fact, in my opinion, still living out inside in her head. Her head,
Yeah.
she's still out there.
Yeah.
Right. And Daryl can't forget because it's where he is most himself and at peace. It just, it's kind of, there was this kind of realization that the Claymore Joe's comment to him back last season about, there's nothing worse than an outside cat that thinks it's an inside cat.
Right. Right.
And he's kind of realizing, and I think Aaron realizes, and that's what's amazing. Again, we'll talk more about it, but is that, he realizes that he needs to be out there, that he's kind of almost like become not part of that world, but not born for that world, but that's as much part of him as anything else, more so than being inside a place like Alexandria.
Well, it's really funny, and it's funny that you bring up that comment about the indoor cat, outdoor cat thinking he's an indoor cat, because Daryl's completely the resident wild man. I mean, he's unshowered. He's still grabbing animals and tearing them open on right there on a brand new porch.
Right.
Basically, everybody's inside. They're at a party or they're behind the walls. He's out in the wild, and he's the wild animal that can't be that won't be tamed. So.
Yep. I gave it. One other thing. I didn't see any or hear any references back to Dale. There's lots of callbacks, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I didn't see any to Dale, which was kind of interesting, other than the title, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. But overall,
yeah, I didn't either.
Overall, I gave it 4 noggin shots. What about you?
I gave it 3. And we'll talk about that.
Okay.
All right. So, what'd you like about it?
Well, my good is kind of a little all over the place. So to try and keep it organized a little bit, I did a bunch of goods for different characters, and then a couple of general goods, and then the bads. But my goods with Sasha was. I thought the whole opening sequence was great with her. I like that she takes the family pictures, which are so symbolic of this what this town seems to think they've recaptured. And in her mind it's like a total joke. It's a total fantasy, and she's pissed about that. I think she's still pissed about losing Bob and losing Tyrese, and she's suffering from some serious PTSD, and but at the same time, and they did such a great job with the sound on it, because she's taking the shot and then she's waiting. She's waiting and listening for walkers. And then she takes the shot and she's waiting, she's listening, and it's building and it's building, it's building. And then the sound is getting louder and you start to hear walkers, and it's pretty loud at the last shot in her head. It's clearly in her head that she's hearing the walkers, and then she sits down and she whispers to herself, come get me or whatever. And I think, a lot of I didn't interpret that as like somewhat suicidal or reckless. I think it was maybe meant to kind of make you think that, but I took it as she just wanted a moving object to shoot. She wanted live, practice. She wanted walkers to come. That's why she was shooting that stuff. She's making noise. She wanted them to come so she could shoot them and fight them and get her rage out. That's what I saw. I didn't think it was more like, come eat me. You know what I mean?
You didn't think it was suicide by walker?
No, I didn't. I mean, I was supposed to. I think it was supposed to look like that, but that's not how I took it. I took it as she just, she really wanted to shoot walkers. Um, I thought I loved that she, when she goes to the party and then has the flip out and says, that's what you worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, just as a comment to the book, were line that was actually Michonne's
Mm-hmm.
line in the book. So they've switched that around, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But I thought that was a great sequence, and I felt like I was like yelling at the TV, "Good for you!" You know what I mean? It's like these people in this crazy party, and it's like you're 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 totally losing your mind. First of all, they should be rationing food.
Right.
They didn't have any gardens going, or so. I mean, the prison was more self-sufficient than this place.
Right.
I mean, granted, they got the solar and they got the power and they got the water treatment, but I mean,
But where
there's
are they
no
getting the food?
gardens.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Where's the food coming from? They're gonna if they're
exactly.
so. That it was just good for her to call that out. I thought that was great, and I thought that was a great scene. Um, Carol, good Carol. Carol's man, she is one scary ass bitch now, man. I'll tell you. That threat to that kid was the creepiest thing since the governor and his heads in the water tanks, or in the
I
fish
don't know.
tank.
I think that might be creepier. I mean, it was like someone posted, someone said something on one of the sites saying, it's too bad the camera didn't pan down and see the puddle of urine at the kid's feet,
That's
because holy crap,
it was,
and it
and
was,
the
you
way it
know,
was done was so artful too. The way she moves in slowly out of the dark, and then kind of gets in closer and closer and closer until she's finally right in his face, and yet she's being completely like pleasant in the way that she says it. Oh, it was
and the
crazy.
kid played the actor playing the kid.
Yeah,
He did well too. His
yes,
eyes just wide and yeah.
yeah, I agree. I liked all the, the references about her, being invisible again. She says it to Rick. She says it to Rick a couple times. He says it back to her. Blah blah blah. But I think that that's going to bite her in the butt, And I think that they made such a point of calling it out that to me, I think it's going to be something that is going to backfire on her. I don't think she's so invisible to Deanna, and I'm guessing that Deanna is going to confront her at some point, much like she confronted Sasha at the end as she was heading out, and which we can talk about as well. But so I think that's coming. I love the applesauce and the cookies thing. It was a funny reminds me of the applesauce with Rick and Aaron back in the
Mm,
barn.
yeah.
That was funny. I love too that the little foreshadowing when she tells the inventory lady that about the applesauce and the recipe, and she says that she can't tell anybody, and the pantry lady says she'll it'll die with her. I was like, no kidding, probably pretty soon. That's my guess.
Well, that's like when she gets off the porch after talking with everybody, and the one woman says to her, she says, you need anything, you hit me up, girl. And the look
Yeah.
on Carol's face was just like, it was like, oh yeah, I will. When the time comes, I'll
Yep.
knock you out.
That's right. I like that she took the extra piece of chocolate because at first I thought that was really weird, and that was definitely going to be missed by the pantry lady because she made a big deal about the chocolate that she could only give her so much.
Right.
But it occurred to me that that's probably she did that probably on purpose as an alibi.
Right.
Should
Exactly.
should she get caught or should the kid call
Yep.
out more or whatever? I mean, she didn't know the kid came after that. I think right.
Right.
Or maybe not. I don't remember.
No, the kid came after, but I mean, again, it just shows you how wily she is. And the in the beginning too, when the walker comes up and then she puts 6 rounds in the walker, and then Daryl and Rick just kind of look at her like,
I
"What
know.
the hell was that?" And she's like, "Well, I'm supposed to be out here doing target practice. Can't go back with a full clip."
I know.
I mean,
That was-
brilliant, like attention to
was.
detail, very
Yeah.
very smart.
I know when she was shooting him, I was like, "What the hell? She's a really good shot." And then they pan back and they show both the guys, and they're both like, "What the hell? She's a really good shot." I don't
Right.
understand. Yeah, that was funny. Um, I love the irony too that Rick had kicked her to the curb, and yet now he's calling on her to steal the guns. I thought that was again here he is relying on her calling on her, needing her, just like he did at Terminus and everything else, and yet here's this, she's the same person that, for these same reasons, now that he's calling on her for, he'd made her leave, So, which is kind of interesting. Also, just I wanted to point out for people who didn't catch or don't know this about the book, but in the books, Glenn is the one that Rick recruits to get the guns. My goods on Daryl, that whole sequence with Aaron, just I thought was the best part of the whole show, and I was going to make it my ugly, but I loved that. The symbolism of the horse with him. I mean, it wasn't subtle. Which I guess
it was about as subtle as a hand grenade.
I know it wasn't subtle, but it still was I thought beautiful, and it was cool. And I liked how he was talking to the horse, and he said, you used to be somebody's, now you're just yours. I thought that was a great line about, kind of, again, coming back to his sense of being free when he's out there, and doing his own thing and not indebted or in anybody's, like when he was with his brother or something like that, Buttons was the horse from Herschel's farm in the book, by the way. I don't know if it was Maggie's or Glenn's, but remember how they take the two horses at one point when they leave there. Yeah, and I thought that the whole symbolism of Daryl's wild, free nature and the zombies getting it when here they are. Here's Aaron representing Alexandria, wants to get this horse and bring it in. The horse has been out for who knows how many years, 2 years in the wild, surviving without being killed by the zombies, and yet here he wants to try and bring it in to like domesticate it or make it safe or whatever. And in so trying to do that ends up killing it. And, again, very metaphorical or symbolic of, what they're trying to do to Daryl and Rick and their crew by taking these wild animals, which they really had almost become, and bring them into Alexandria. And I think
domesticating them.
Yeah. And I think it's more the fear that they have that if they get too domesticated, then they're going to be soft and get killed. I mean, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a realization that they can still be strong and tough and aware of the real world and bring that to Alexandria and make it a better, stable place that can survive, but I thought the horse was a great metaphor for all of that.
I was just glad that it wasn't Noah out there, because everything gets killed when Noah tries to
That's right.
help.
A horse, Aaron, Daryl, they all would have been dead. I made a big prediction last week about Daryl, and because he would either get kicked out or exiled or would choose.
I'm gonna give you props on that. That was a good. I know what you're about to talk about, and you know what?
It still may come to pass in some form. But and it wasn't so much. I don't think the exile thing or leaving was necessarily a very insightful idea, because lots of people had it. We had listeners that wrote in about it and people online. But I think the idea that he might become the TV version of Dwight, was something no one had really thought about. And that still I think could be a possibility. But I think. They went really far with this whole thing between Aaron and him and the motorcycle and the recruitment, the idea of him being a recruiter, and and that just kind of winning him over, and this idea that he can identify good people, and as long as you don't take into consideration Joe and the claimers, so now I'm thinking, no, he's probably going to stick around. He's probably going to try and do this, and it's a great format for the show too, because it will then give them a storyline that's outside of the walls and a storyline that's inside the walls, and the outside one can be filled with zombies and action and the inside one can be filled in with drama and personal issues and characterization and all that kind of stuff. So it seems like that's probably where they're going to go. Daryl not taking the gun, that was awesome. That whole scene with the three of them. She finally gets the guns, and it was totally unexpected. And he's just like, now that he's kind of made this connection with Aaron, he kind of feels like now maybe he has a purpose. He definitely wants that motorcycle.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? Let's not mess this shit up. You know what I mean?
Well,
And he had,
and he puts it back on Carol. He's like, you told me to try, so
yeah, exactly.
it's funny
And
because there's been some pushback on in some places that I've seen that Daryl would never do that, and that's not Daryl, and blah blah blah, and so there's some there. I don't want to quantify it, but there is some chatter out there that, remember the rumors that were going around for a while, and they're still out there, that Daryl's going to be a gay character.
right,
So the reason why he's turned, or that because he's downshifted into this more domesticated mode with Aaron, and the reason why he and Aaron got along so well, and as a result of him coming over to the house, is that he's, that rumor is still in play, and now that he sees that there's a couple guys that are, like him, he's got like a community, of
yeah,
his own. I don't know
bullshit.
if I buy it, but
Bullshit. I don't
yeah.
buy it at all. First of all, Kirkman came out and said that, they played around with the idea, but that he is definitely not going to be gay, you know, and he went out of his way to make that point. But regardless, there was none of that vibe in this interaction at all.
Right.
I mean, this was, and it's what I really have loved about the introduction of Aaron, and the way that they're handling the character, the way they're writing it, and the way the actor's acting it, is that, it's not even an important part of who he is.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not a defining part of who he is at this point.
Right.
You know what I mean? Other than the fact that, like, he can associate and feel a connection with Daryl because he's an outsider.
Right.
That was clearly still a part of it. But he's just a really smart, really cool, and can handle himself out there. You know what I mean? I mean, he was a good shot.
Yeah.
He wasn't hitting body shots. They were all head shots.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I felt a lot of respect for the two of them. And I don't think that's at all where they're going, and at all. Again, when Daryl didn't take the gun, I thought that was awesome and unexpected. And then the three amigos going separate paths when they come back in.
That
right after that, I thought was it was a great shot. I mean, Carol, is definitely, dark and preparing for the takedown. Rick, I think, is getting a little unhinged, but at the same time, he's trying to accept the situation. He's trying to make it work. So he's like I said, he's kind of teetering in the middle. And then Daryl, who's kind of decided to make this thing work and try to work it out. And they each go in their own path. I don't exactly remember.
Carol took the high road.
I think Carol took the high road. Right.
Daryl went across the grass, so he went the domestic route, and then in the middle, and then Rick went down. He took the low road.
Yeah, interesting. I thought, but I liked that.
So
if
you want to read into it, Carol's taking the moral high ground, taking the high road. I don't know.
Yeah. But I thought that was cool, and it was kind of like a visual.
That was a great shot. Yeah.
Yeah, manifestation of it, or a visual cue of it. Anyway, so that was cool. Let's see what else. I read a comment. I thought this was good too. I read a comment that was on IO9's at the bottom after their review, and they suggested that Aaron calling out Darrow's ability to tell the difference between walkers and people just by how they sound would be a skill needed to tell the whispers from zombies.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. I mean, again, foreshadowing that, but also, that's true. What a cool skill that would be to have, with those particular guys. So that was cool. What else I have? I had a good on Abraham. I loved seeing him talking with Michonne. It was like the first time. I've been complaining every episode about the fact that Team Abraham never interacts with the rest of the group. And I think that's the first time Michonne and him have even had a conversation. I mean, there was Glenn and Maggie with them for a while, but I don't think he's ever had a conversation with Michonne, at least not that involved. So I thought that was cool. I loved his lines. You're packing different steel nowadays when she's holding the plastic. Thought that was really good. And, clearly he's let down his guard, and that's represented by his drinking, and he kind of admits that. But then he kind of puts her on the spot and says, that katana, it's on your back even when it's not on your back, which I thought was pretty insightful, and it was a nice connection between the two of them. And they don't have to do more than that. I mean,
Right.
how long was that? That wasn't even 30 seconds,
Right.
of it. They don't need to do any more than that. And they
Right.
should do more of that with the group, and get them then interacting more.
Right.
Couple goods on Rick. I talked about the fact that I like that he's walking on the edge. He wants to feel comfortable, but is afraid. Knows the community is not realistic. Loved his line when he was out with the group, with the three of them, and he's like, "These have got to be the luckiest people in the apocalypse," or whatever. That was pretty funny. And that A stamp, that was just too cool. I mean, when they give him the stamp and it was like, oh my God, and of course a lot of people are like, well, it's like the Scarlet Letter and the adultery, be possible, but to me it was terminus. I mean, that was the A of the A car. You know what I mean? And the last community that put him in an A was terminus.
Right.
So that was and then that was even further hit home, I think, at that last scene, which we talked about at the beginning, when he's at the metal fence and the zombie's on the other side, and he's holding up his hand with the A on it and listening. And it, I think it's kind of, he's remembering, that the last time he was behind metal doors, it was an A train car at terminus, and so he kind of feels trapped and not safe, like a sitting duck. I thought it was creepy, and it's almost as if, but then there was also this kind of like almost like they were longing for each other, the zombie and him. You know what I mean? Almost as if he was kind of, missing that side of him. There was another interpretation I read online again, and I thought was also good. It was completely opposite, which is that with that scene, and so I wanted to share it with people because I thought it was a good insight. And he hears the walker. He runs to the fence. He checks the fence. There's no way for the thing to get through. Only a week or so ago, his whole group had to hold the doors of the barn against a horde of zombies. Now, maybe for the first time, he's not seeing the wall as a weakness, but as a strength and as safety. So maybe he's coming around, which I thought was interesting. It didn't, with the music, the kooky, crazy music,
right,
and the zombie and his weird kind of behavior. That didn't come to me as what was going on there, but maybe it was. And I certainly think, lots of people I read were like, Rick is getting unhinged, and this is, is he going crazy and blah blah blah. It's like, part of me felt it was very consistent with his character. I mean, if you think back to the prison, he started getting those phone calls from Lori. He started seeing her ghost. In times of peak stress for Rick, it seems like he gets a little unhinged before he gets focused. And it seems like that's a pattern with him. I mean, he was definitely kind of unhinged after the prison, when he was on the road with just Carl. And, I think that that just seems to be kind of a pattern with him, but then he pulls it together. We talked about the music. That was I thought, at the end. Okay. Then beyond the particular character goods, I love that we got a little bit more about the W's on the walkers. Thought that was really good. There's lots of speculation online about the W actually being an M. Did you see that? Because it was, at that, when the three of them find that walker, the camera stays on the head of the walker, which is upside down, so it's reading as an M. I think that's just them messing with us, or just to remind us about Morgan. But I don't think, people are like, well, maybe that's from Morgan, or blah, blah. There's no way Morgan's spending any time wasting carving.
Well, not only that, but look at the last time we saw Morgan take down a walker. It was gentle. It was there
like
wasn't any.
Right.
Yeah,
there's nothing sadistic about it.
And you got to remember too is that it's not just carving a W in there. You got to go back to those bodies chopped in half and the arms taken off.
Arms, right?
It's the scavengers from the from the
I'm
storyline
convinced as well. I'm convinced that the W's are the work of the group of the scavengers from the comic. I agree. let's see. And the other thing is that the scavengers come to the again. This is spoiler for the book readers or non-book readers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, jump ahead. But they come to Alexandria, if I recall, and they yell out at the gate about "Come out, little piggies."
Mm-hmm.
Or blow the doors down, very much, like the wolf and the three little pigs,
Mm-hmm.
which would make sense for why they call them the wolves, or they're tiny. There was also some references, we've talked about in the past, to wolves, the graffiti, the book
Mm-hmm.
she was reading, Eden was reading, or what's her name?
Enid.
Enid. In this episode, we had a full moon,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was the reference to the boar.
Mm-hmm.
There's another pig reference, so it definitely seemed like they're really trying to hammer that home. But I love too that Daryl and Carol don't think anything of the W,
Right.
and then they show Rick, and he's kind of like, shit,
Mm-hmm.
because of course Rick obviously didn't share with them which is kind of strange. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, why wouldn't you tell them
Yeah. Why
about?
wouldn't you say something? Yeah.
I know that was some
We
weird
ran
crap.
into a truckload of these, back at the last place.
It's a goodwill delivery. um, let's see what else is good. I like that they kind of keep coming back to the statement that Glenn made to Deanna about you can be out there too long, and I think that the episode was kind of challenging or questioning, is that the case for Daryl, Rick, and Carol? And it seemed like with Daryl going into this episode, I would have said definitely, but now it seems like no. Except that he needs to be out there or whatever to be sane to in part. Rick is on the edge, as I already said, but Carol, I think maybe she has been out there too long. At this point, I think there was a bunch of cool callbacks. I don't know if everybody kind of caught them or not. Some of them weren't as obvious as others. I think when Michonne hangs the katana, the hammer is kind of a nice visual callback to Tyrese.
I disagree with that. I've seen that all over the internet, and I disagree with that. And the reason why I disagree with that is because in the back of issue...
No, I mean it was right out of the comic.
It's right out of the comic. It's
absolutely,
it's right there.
It's right out of the.
It's not
absolutely.
a callback. That's how else is she going to put nails in a wall? It's exactly a panel right out of the comic. That's not a callback.
Well,
I throw the BS flag on that.
All right, go ahead. What about the spaghetti? Well, that wasn't a good callback to Herschel.
All right, I'll give you the spaghetti. I'll give you Spaghetti Tuesdays with Herschel. Okay. I'll give you that.
How about the inventory woman's request to Sasha to bring back a leg of a pig?
That set Sasha off the edge.
Bob?
Yeah.
Somebody read that. Punched her right in the bob. That was pretty good. And then, of course, the street sign behind Rick at the end of Morgan Street.
Yep.
Which cool.
It's going back and forth between, because that's apparently that's the actual name of the street that they're filming on, or that they're filming. So it's either, nothing's ever throwaway in the show, but is that an actual Easter egg, or is it?
They could have shot it at any one of the street corners there. They didn't have to shoot it at that particular street corner, so that would be.
Do you ever think that maybe sometimes things get shot and they just kind of?
I mean, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Sometimes.
Okay.
I mean, I like it. I'm buying into it that it's an Easter egg, but I'm just saying too that,
Yeah, and you're probably right with the hammer. I'll agree with you on that. That's probably just, I mean, they could have
just a hammer.
They could have not shown the hammer. They could have just had the nails already in the wall, and she takes it and puts it up. She didn't have to be holding the hammer. But you're right. It was exactly like it was in the book. Maybe in the book it was a callback to Tyrese. All right, I'm reaching now, baby.
A little bit.
I thought another good was the references to what this place will become from Deanna. And I especially like when she says about that to Judith, and that she envies Judith because she will get to see what this place becomes. And I thought that was kind of weird and maybe foreshadowing of Judith surviving to Rick's reign down the road, and that Deanna knows she won't make it, or feels that she probably won't make it, which I thought that was kind of cool. What was she also made a bunch of references, and I think someone else did too, and I didn't write it down though, to A Good View, was in a couple places about that. She says to Rick, isn't this a good view?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know what that was a reference to or what that might be a comment about, but it was kind of odd. It was an odd expression. She used it again.
No, it wasn't her. It was Jesse. Jesse made those. She's
Yeah, but
because
I think
Jesse was like,
Deanna
"This
made it
is."
too. Deanna, I think, made it too about the party, in the party, about
Yeah, I thought that was Jesse. I
just
thought
maybe it was
Jesse made
Jess,
it.
maybe it was, yeah. But I thought that was kind of that's a
Well,
weird
Jesse
choice.
was doing the hard sell. She was like real estate agent, basically like selling the community on Rick, and it was
Yeah,
like, I mean, I made the note of it like, good Lord, move on. It's like,
yeah.
when you hammer something home as much as you're doing, all you're doing is you're just increasing suspicion about what you're doing, and I kind of wanted to just
Now,
shut up. And
when you just said hammer home, were you trying to
that was a
say
that
about
was that was a callback to Tyrese.
about the
Yes.
Tyrese? Okay,
Yeah.
just check it. Just check. um, I thought another good was Deanna including Maggie in Plans to Govern, and I
Yeah,
thought that
especially
was
since
great.
Maggie looks really good when she gets cleaned up.
Oh man, dynamite. Yeah, I thought that was nice foreshadowing again of her future role. Based on the books again. And that's what I had for goods. Do you have anything else good that I didn't touch on?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit the first 42 minutes of the show, so I got like a minute to.
Okay, what was your bad? No.
It's gonna be it's sort of some of these podcasts are like, all right, Kirk, what did you like? Let's see, there was the beginning and then everything to the end. Good. Okay.
That's right. Everything in the middle, I loved. Hold on, let me get my hammer and put it in the picture.
So okay, so my goods were you touched on a bunch of them. First and foremost, I love the melding that's going on between the comic and the show, and how it's the same but it's different. We've already talked. We talked last week about how the mayor in the comic, or the Deanna in the comic is actually Douglas. We've got you're seeing some scenes from that from the comic that are appearing in this in the show, and I really like how it's they're twisting some things, but they're making those things fit. Carol is, she's doing what Glenn was doing in the comic. The first thing that comes off the top of my head when I was watching Sasha is that Sasha's the new Andrea,
Oh yeah,
from the
absolutely,
comic.
absolutely.
And so I really like how they're getting the two to kind of jibe. It's not perfect, but it's close enough for those of us that are fans of the comic book. Daryl and Aaron just really stole the episode
Oh,
for me,
absolutely.
or stole most of the episode for me. I made a note in the beginning that Aaron talks too much, because it was just like, it was like just yapping as they're going
Yeah,
along.
it was a
And
little uncomfortable at first.
oh
Yeah,
my god, it was horrible. It was like, it was terrible. But then they really started to gel together, and like you said, he's a good marksman out there. And the actor playing him is fantastic.
yeah,
The I like the scene. There was something really, when you watch it, when you watch an actor's performance, and delivering lines, there's like certain times when they give their lines, and there's just an authenticity to them. When he's on the porch, he sees Daryl going walking by, he was like, hey, come on in. And
right,
just how he was just like, oh, just the how natural it was, just like, oh, come on in, it's like the best spaghetti, and or whatever he
right,
said.
right.
And it was it was genuine and real, and I love the interaction between him and Eric at the table.
Yeah,
And like you
yeah,
said, it's not, and it's very, it echoes a lot of, in the comic book. We've seen a couple gay characters in the comics, but
right,
that's never the thing. It's just that's part of their character, and it's the
right,
color on them,
right.
so to speak. And then that's it. And the interaction at the table was great. I
How about when
liked.
How
Go
about
ahead.
when Eric starts asking him about the pasta maker thing, and he hasn't hasn't talked to him yet about the bike, and
Yeah.
you could just say, I mean, again, the way that the actor that plays Aaron handled that was just, it was
It
just
was
like
great.
perfect. It was just, he
Yeah.
was mortified, you know,
Yeah.
it was great.
I've been on the receiving end of some of those looks. So it was a very married couple kind of look.
Right, right,
Um, but I love the development that, hey, this is what I think your job should be. It should be, you're the recruiter. You should go out, because as soon as he said that, I was like, holy cow! It's like, like you talked about, it just opens
right.
up this whole new, this whole new world. Um,
And it just made perfect sense.
oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I
Uh,
love too because they completely led us a different way. Last episode
right.
when it's just like everybody was like at the end of the episode was like, freaking Daryl's gonna bolt, Daryl's gonna get kicked out, blah, blah, and I was on board with that. And then boom, they just completely turned it 180
Right.
and in a believable way.
Right.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was awesome.
Um, I agree with you about Sasha in the beginning. I thought it was kind of suicide by Walker. I didn't think she was looking for actual target practice, but something just how the actress playing that scene. There was just something about her, the intensity she brought to that.
Yeah,
I really like that scene.
Saniqua.
Sonequa Martin Green, I think it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, she's very good.
um, Yeah, so and just certain shots that were done. We talked about the Trinity coming in and going their separate ways. I like that. I like the shot at I mentioned already, over the wall at the end with Rick on one side and
Yeah,
Walker on the other. That was well
yeah.
shot. And I liked at the party. The one thing I did like about the party was I liked Sasha's outburst made a lot of sense. Um, uh, because it just, people just clueless. You're this
Totally.
that's all the stuff that you're talking about, and that stupid pasta maker. It's
And she's worried about if she's not going to like a meal that she's going to make for her. Meanwhile, this is a person who, a week ago was starving and almost dehydrated to death.
right.
I mean, anything is going to be fine. Everything's going to be wonderful.
But I liked seeing Carl. I liked seeing Carl hanging out with his two friends, and
Yeah,
Rick looks over and sees sees Carl kind of assimilating, and I like that. It could have been easily just having Carl standoffish and kind of still not integrating with the group. But I liked seeing him making friends. So that was about all I had for the goods. All right, what were your bads?
um, it's not a big bad, this one, but coming back to the Michonne hanging up the katana in the comic, it was very significant. Um, and maybe it's because of the fact that in the comic, Michonne was really delivering the lines that Sasha delivers. She was dealing with a lot of this inner struggle with these people to say, you guys are living in a fantasy. It's a nightmare out there, and you guys are pretending like it's cocktail hour, and you're crazy. And in the TV show, Michonne is not there mentally. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? She's in a different place, and she's kind of more already kind of accepting this and trying to take it on. And so it didn't have the significance to me that it had in the comic. And in reality, it makes no sense. Why
Right.
not keep the damn thing on her back?
Right.
I mean, it's a wonderful, perfect weapon for this particular world now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's quiet. It gives you a little bit of distance. I mean, it's the right thing to have. And in this scenario, if they're worried that there might be a breakthrough in the wall or whatever, that at any time, they got all the freaking guns are locked up in a separate room. I mean, they got to get halfway across the community before they can get armed up. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And so I don't know. To me, it was kind of like they made a whole lot. They needed something symbolic to show that she had kind of decided to commit to the place. But I think she had already committed to the place when she walked in.
Right, and that's a valid point, because I actually have the comic in front of me right here, and when she does it, she puts up the nails, and then she puts the when she puts the katana up, she actually it's a 2-page spread, and the first one is her putting it, laying it ceremonially almost on the nails, and then she steps back and looks at it, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels. The next 7 panels are basically flashbacks to her and the violence that she's propagated using this, and then it ends on the bottom of the page where she's talking to the sword. She goes, "I'm through with you." And it was, like you said, in the comic, it's her basically. It's not that she's acquiescing to this safe haven, but she's giving up the violence, associated with it. And yeah, if there had been a little bit more to that,
I think they undermined that by taking the PTSD, for lack of a term,
sure,
and putting it on Sasha
hmm
and taking away from Michonne. Then, like you just said, that was really what was going on in that sequence in the comic, was her finally letting go of the anger
hmm
and of the rage and of the violence. And that's where Sasha is right now. I mean, if they had not had Michonne do this whole thing with that, and at some point had Sasha take the rifle and mount it on the wall, I think it would be more significant as a sign that she's now accepted this community and she's letting go of some of that, that aggression or whatever. But anyway,
which is funny too, because in the comic she puts up the sword, and then they go on, but then the party happens after that. So the outburst of her saying that's what you worry about actually occurs after she puts the sword up.
right. Another bad was, I didn't like the kiss that Rick gave to Jess. I thought it was inappropriate. Um, I mean, it was creepy. I thought it was uncomfortable to watch, even though she definitely responds with a kind of positive reaction. It was not like she was taken back a little bit, but it was kind of like, okay, I kind of like that. You know what I mean? So, and I think they want the show wants to show that there's going to be some tension there between the three of them, Paul or Peter, Pete, and her and him. And they're trying to show that he's a little unhinged still and making bad decisions and a little crazy. But it didn't work for me. I didn't like it. What about you?
See, I just want to back up a second. I don't see Rick as unhinged. Unhinged is, Sasha's unhinged.
Right.
Rick's not unhinged. Rick is he's just, like you said originally, is that he's on that razor's edge between, basically which side is he going to fall on? Is he going to fall into drinking the Kool-Aid of Alexandria and just completely accepting this, and okay, that life beyond the walls is done? Is he gonna fall in, and he'll still be guarded. He's not going to be completely just fully passive, or is he going? Is he still getting the call of the wild that's kind of
Right.
pulling him? And I think that it's. I think with him is that calling, him going up to the fence and hearing the walker on the other side, and these little perturbations of him going out into the wild, out beyond the walls, and putting some walkers down and still keeping that edge, so to speak. I think that helps temper him. He needs that balance for when he falls to the inside, when he's going to accept Alexandria, but he's keeping that edge to himself from the outside. You get what I'm saying? So
I agree.
So I don't see him as
I won't use the term unhinged anymore. I agree.
I'm glad I've hammered it home.
That's right.
No,
wait a minute. Was that a callback to Tyrese?
I don't think he's unhinged, but I agree with you. I did not. Rick is probably my biggest bad of this episode, because I didn't like that at all. The kiss was it was terribly creepy. It was who sang who did John Travolta mess up the name at the Oscars last year?
Yeah, it was you mean the name he messed up?
Yeah, he messed up the name. She sang the Frozen song.
I don't remember.
Anyway, this year at the Oscars, and you can YouTube it, he comes out to present an award with her. Holy crap, what's her name?
No,
Anyway,
it's with Black Widow. It's with
no. He was out with no. He was out with. He does that weird with. He does something weird with Scarlett Johansson too. But he comes out with the girl whose name he screwed up last year.
Oh yeah, okay. They
And he
probably
comes
did
out.
that on purpose, huh?
They come out to present the award, and he's just like skeevy, creepy. He's got his arm around her, touches her face, and gets really. You're just like, duh, what are you doing? So I had the same kind of reaction with Rick and Jesse.
Yeah.
And look, I get that, heat of the moment kind of thing, and there's an attraction, and maybe you kind of, and I think they were kind of going for that, but it was creepy. And what made it worse was just the whole how Shane he was
Yes. Yes.
for the rest of the episode. I mean,
Yes.
look, and I think I think they did a fantastic job with Pete, just laying subtle hints about what a douchebag he is.
Right.
And the problem is, we saw it last week when he was like, "Oh, my wife cut your hair," and
Right.
he's just kind of gruff. This week, what does he do? Well, when Jesse says she'll go get him a drink, he kind of brushes her off. He's like, "No, I'll get it," and I think somewhere down the line we're gonna see one of his kids with a black eye, and the kid saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
I fell down the stairs,"
Right.
and that's gonna seal the deal. So, but the thing is that uh, with Rick, putting a hand back to the illegal gun in his in his waistband when he sees Pete, it was just too much for me, and Rick wouldn't do that,
Right.
or Rick shouldn't do that. That's not.
But that's what I meant by unhinged. I meant not that he is unhinged. I agree with you. I think he's on the razor's edge trying to decide, how to balance this new world and his old world, his old life. But I think the show is trying to make us feel that he's starting to lose it a little, or he's a little unhinged, and by making these weird decisions, to like kiss her, or to, potentially threaten,
But the
like
problem is when
very
you do
Shane like. Again, I agree. I think
Ri-
they're
Ri-
doing a callback to Shane. Absolutely.
but the thing is that when you do something like that, here's the problem. You're sympathetic to Rick when with him trying to do the balance and do that dance. You're sympathetic to him. But when he
Right.
does something like this,
Yes.
you're not sympathetic anymore. Now
No, he's a
you're
dick.
like, exactly.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. That's why it's my bad. I think it's a mixed signal, and I think it's just trying to. It's doing. The other thing is it's completely unbelievable and unrealistic that the show would go in that direction with him anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So they're just messing with us. And that I always find annoying in a show. You know what I mean? It's like, don't do something with a character that you know full well you have no intentions of committing to. If you're going to make him turn into a dick and become an evil guy like they did with Shane,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm down with that. You know what I mean? But they're not going to do that with Rick. He's the hero of the show.
Right.
So, I'm not buying it. So it's just a ploy.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that that Andrew Lincoln in The Walking Dead basically reprises his character from Love Actually. In Love
I didn't see
Actually,
him other than the pictures of him holding up the cards that I've seen.
yes,
online.
exactly that
I
one.
don't.
He's
I
got
don't
the
know anything
hots
about
for Keira Knightley. Keira Knightley. He's got the hots for Keira Knightley, who's married to his best friend. So I mean, it's
reprising that role.
yeah.
Another, since we're on Rick, the next big bad I had, and this is probably one of my biggest bads of the whole episode. What's with the significance of the extra gun? I mean, he already has this huge freaking 357 Magnum on his hip.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what's the big deal? To me, why is it significant that he would, you know what I mean? Like he reaches around for the extra gun.
Yeah, I didn't
like,
get that. I don't.
In the comic, he doesn't have a gun, I don't think. I don't remember. I could be wrong. I have to go check. But I think that he doesn't have a gun, and therefore, when he does have a confrontation where he uses that gun that he's not supposed to have, it becomes this huge issue.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just looking at it now. I don't think he's strapped. When
Right. He steals. Out. He has
Yep.
Glenn steals the guns. He carries the gun on him, and then there's a confrontation. Again, this is spoilers for comic book people or that haven't gotten this far. He has the confrontation with Pete. Is it Pete in the comic? Is it the guy's name?
Yeah, I think so.
With the husband of Jesse, and he pulls the gun out I don't remember if he shoots him or not, but he pulls the gun out, and of course everyone freaks because it's like, how does he have a gun inside the
Right.
walls? You know what I mean? Well, if he's walking around with a gun on his hip already, what's the significance if he pulls it? Just completely undermined the
Yep.
whole thing about the guns.
Yep.
I don't, to me, it was almost like it was a mistake, as if like they screwed up and forgot, that like they needed to take the gun off of him inside the walls.
Yeah.
But so that to me was that was the worst possible thing in the show, which isn't that big of a crit, I guess. Anything else for bads?
So I didn't. Okay. Uh, When
Is this
my
more bad?
my big cringing is when Jesse's kid comes up and puts the A on Rick's hand.
Right.
Like, there wasn't a visible reaction. There should have been a visible reaction to that A. But like you said, Terminus. Yeah, I get what everybody says about the Scarlet Letter, and I think that's a funny coincidence. I actually thought of it as soon as,
Right.
once the kiss happened. But it was, I don't know. There should have been something about that, especially when they said, now you're one of us.
Right.
I get the intimation that, okay, now you're an Alexandrian, but there should have been, dude, that A, that's significant to this group, and there
Right.
should have been something about that, and he just kind of like, oh, hey, yeah,
Yeah,
or
and then later on he holds it up and she
my
holds it
ass,
up.
he'd have
Yeah.
been home scrubbing that thing off, like, there's no way you're carrying that around. So
Yeah.
I had a problem with that. Uh, I didn't like Deanna has Deanna has big ambitions, and she's not going to be able to pull them off. Why is there nobody in the watchtower?
Right.
And what her response was something like, "Well, we haven't needed one. You're an idiot." And so and
Yeah, yeah,
someone
but in
needs,
all fairness, when he confronts her with that, she says, "Okay, we'll get a schedule, and there'll be somebody up there all the time." I
yeah,
mean, she's definitely got him there because she knows she's weak on certain things, and she's respecting that. You know what I mean? So that's
So
good.
yeah, I think we should see more of that stuff, though. They live in this little, we agree that they've got this little
Right.
fantasy land that they live in. Our people should be going in and, should be saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, X, Y, and Z. That dovetails into my next thing, which is, as you said earlier, about the 30 seconds that we saw with Abraham. um, I think the pasta machine got more airtime than who? Maggie. Well, no, more than Eugene, Gabriel, um, and it's like, all you got to do. What are these people doing? Let's see what they're doing. What happened with the aftermath of Noah, Tara, and Glenn last week? Like, are they still on that patrol?
Right.
Did they get moved? Whatever. And like
Right.
you said, all it's got to be is just, let's see what's 30-second glimpses,
Right.
of these
Right.
people. So it's basically,
Well, we
they're,
haven't seen Gabriel
no.
since the barn, right? Did no? He was there when they came into when they came into Terminus, when they came into
Right.
Alexandra. He was there. We have not seen him since then.
Right.
Since they walked in the door, we haven't seen him.
Right.
Now, to me, that says that actor's probably not there. Maybe he's only for certain, hired for a certain amount of episodes. I don't, maybe, who know, or maybe he had a commitment to something else, but he is definitely not on the set when they were shooting this because he's nowhere.
Yeah.
He's not even,
Well,
everybody else is in the background.
yeah, and I'm interested to see where that,
It looks
where
like next week he's going to
it's
be,
going to be it's gonna be a Gabriel centric episode next week.
right.
Um, but and Eugene, I mean, I'm just interested to find out what kind of job Eugene would be given.
Now,
Um,
yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I I I I don't feel as bad about not seeing Eugene, and I know a lot of people feel like he's getting left behind as well, and it's true he is. But in the comic, he and Rosita also got kind of left behind for a long time in the comic book,
yeah,
and Rosita for the most part is still freaking gone
yeah,
in the comic book, but he starts to have a much bigger role, and so they may be following along in that plan, that they're just not going to spend much time with him now because down the road he gets more time. I don't know.
Well, I find it.
I agree with you though.
Yeah.
I wish they would just, just a couple seconds with each person, little character development, absolutely. She's greeted at the door by Spencer, I think, who is
Right.
also the son of Deanna. So in the TV series, Deanna has two sons. I believe in the comic, the senator had one son.
Right.
But I'm not positive about that. But because I saw there was some confusion. Some people thought that was Aiden, I think is the other son, and they're like, well, why isn't he up in the tower? That's what she said, he was going to be up in the tower tonight. But so anyway, yeah. Ugly.
Well, hold on a second. Before we do the uglies, I just want to read real quick. This was in New York Times, their arts beat, and they brought up an interesting point. So far, our heroes have faced cannibals, murderous convicts, tyrants, tornadoes, wild dogs, and of course, voracious zombies. But Sunday brought rumors of their greatest menace yet, Mrs. Niedermeyer, who won't shut up about pasta makers. Such is the cushiness of life at Alexandria, we were led to believe, as the survivors settled deeper into the easy living of post-apocalyptic suburbia. Sunday's episode, which centered on an awkward cocktail party at Deanna's place, didn't move the needle much on the broader narrative, but I mostly enjoyed it, as Alexandria was presented as a sort of needful things fantasy land that delivered to Rick and his friends what each of their hearts desired most. Needful things being the Stephen King story. For Abraham, it was a bunch of beers. For Daryl, a motorcycle in pieces. For Rick, something like a normal, quote unquote, normal home for his kids and the attentions of a winsome new neighbor. But, as in the Stephen King story, these things will eventually come at a price, whether it's internal divisions, the onset of weakness, as Carol fears, vaporization, as in Father Gabriel's case, seriously, what happened to that guy? Or some other repercussion to come. Civilization isn't free, is the point.
Vaporization, that's awesome.
The compromises people make for its comforts cut into some fundamental aspect of their nature.
That's a good analysis. I haven't read that book, but that sounds right on. Spot on.
The good, and ugly.
So my ugly, hands down, without a doubt, Cookie Monster Carol. Absolutely. That was she just hit all cylinders, from the shooting, the target practice on the zombie, because she's got to make sure that she returns her weapon a little bit light in the clip, to the, I'm going to, steal a little bit of chocolate because, that's the crime I'm going to fess up to if I get caught in here, to just scaring the bejesus out of that little kid. I mean, she's my character of the week too. I might as well, I'll jump ahead on that because that was awesome, just absolutely fantastic.
I agree. Did you love her flower covered sweater?
I cringe every time I know what the long con is, but I still have to cringe seeing her in these get-ups.
Yeah. My ugly was also good, and it was the character of Aaron and the whole interaction with him and Daryl. I kind of already talked about it, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. I just think he's the best new character introduced in the series since the core group. I think that he's smart, he's level-headed. I like the way he's written. I like the way the actor portrays him. He knows how to handle himself in the wild, whereas everyone else at that place is obviously freaking, marshmallow pie.
I agree, and in all honesty, I think Aaron's got the potential to be a better leader than Deanna. I'm not thrilled with Deanna at all.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree.
And I get that.
Well, it wasn't in the comic. I wasn't in the senator in the comic. I didn't like him at all either.
Yeah, no, he was. Yeah. So. Aaron, the actor is knocking it out of the park, and the character is great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love too that they gave us some backstory. We never get backstory. No, I guess we do a little bit. We got some backstory. We got backstory on Abraham. We got a lot of backstory on Tara, but he gave us a little bit of backstory about how they came to Alexandria, and I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway,
We've
there
got a
was
lot of
also,
backstory on him. Like we know he doesn't like applesauce, and
yeah, yeah, that's right. Did you notice when he I think it's when he shot the walker, some of the walkers, maybe it might have been the horse, but I'm pretty sure it was walkers. There was blood that spattered onto the actual camera lens,
yep.
and they've never done that before. And that was kind of cool. It's kind
No,
of something.
I think they have.
Really?
I think quote unquote we've gotten wet before. In
Okay,
the
now you're getting creepy.
that did come out weird.
Yeah, you sound a little like Rick now. Rick/Shane. But anyway, so yeah, that was my good, my ugly good. Crazy ass predictions. Got any? I got a couple things here I want to share. You got any?
um, not one that's mine. Somebody, there's a theory out there that oh man, I can't remember who put it out. It was some website I saw where they were saying that so all these callbacks to Dale are, everybody's kind of like, what are all these callbacks for? What's this all about? And one of the things is somebody saw the tweet for the actor. Oh crap, I wrote it down and I don't know where I put it. From season 1, Morales, who he was with his family.
Oh, was he? Did he?
He takes
Was
his
he?
family for Alabama. He says they're going to Alabama instead of going to the CDC. And he's the guy who asked, why do you wind your watch to Dale? And so apparently the actor back in October tweeted something about, hey, it's good, it's gonna be cool to see my friends from Walking Dead again, and he's going to like a Walker Stalker Con or something, and I raised some eyebrows, like, are you coming back to the show? So there's a theory that all these callbacks are a nod to this guy coming back.
Huh.
I think it's a
Now
little obscure.
it was in season 1.
Yeah, Morales is his name.
He wasn't part of the. Remember, there was a gang group that were taking care of an old age home with a bunch of elderly people. There was one episode where they go in and they meet that gang. We never found out whatever happened to them. Was he part of that? Was he the leader of that group?
No. Morales, the actor is. Oh man, why you gotta do that to me? The actor is Juan Gabriel Pareja. It says during the initial outbreak, Morales evacuated with his wife, daughter, and son from Atlanta and eventually finds a group of survivors. After the camp of survivors was attacked by walkers, he and his family leave for Birmingham. He seems to like and be liked by others and as a natural leader, has shown his ability to cooperate with Rick in Guts. He also appears as one of the more kind survivors. So he was in season 1, he was in Guts, Tell It to the Frogs, Vatos, and Wildfire.
So maybe he was part of the big camp group that where we first meet Shane and everybody. They've got like all the RVs and camp tents and all that stuff. Maybe he was in there, and maybe they left that group before they get attacked. Yeah.
So when he's introduced, he's a survivor who left the refugee camp to gather supplies in Atlanta with Glenn, Andrea, Jackie, Merle, and T-Dog. T-Dog and Morales emerge wearing body armor when Glenn brings Rick to the department store.
So he was in that run in the department store.
And then his last episode was Morales, his wife, and their 2 children make the decision they will not be going to the CDC with the rest of the group and announce they will be going to Birmingham in hopes of finding other family members. The group does not like their decision, but Rick gives Morales a gun and a box of ammo, a walkie-talkie in case they want to contact the group if they change their mind. They bid farewell and take off. Their fates are currently unknown. So that actor, he's the one who tweeted. So,
right, but I think I remember hearing now too that although it wouldn't make any sense that he would be on the other show because that takes place earlier. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So maybe they're going to reintroduce him. Maybe he's going to show up, or maybe he'll be at one of the other communities or something. Yeah, interesting. Well, our Biters fan Celtic Thomas and I were tweeting a bunch of theories today, along with at Walking Naked podcast, and I wanted to share a couple. he suggested maybe Daryl will recruit Negan.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's kind of a wild idea.
Yeah.
That's how Negan gets introduced to Alexandria and finds out about it, and then he ends up bringing, which again, this idea that Aaron says to him, you can tell a good guy from a bad guy. In one hand, it's a compliment. In the other, it's a terrifying um, responsibility. That if you bring home the wrong guy, like if you bring home Joe the Claimer, you could be, ruining this whole scenario.
Right.
But so I thought that was an interesting idea that he had or suggestion. I was thinking, I've thought about, I don't think it's going to be Glenn with the bat. Then we thought then I was suggesting maybe it's going to be Daryl. Now I'm thinking more with this whole Dwight thing, maybe not Daryl. Then I was thinking, well, maybe it'll be Abraham and blah, blah, blah. What if it's Carol?
What?
That Negan takes out with the bat.
Well, it makes total sense because she's the most she's the most lethal and cunning of them all. Sure.
And maybe he'll see that. Maybe he'll see through all that stuff and identify her as one of the strongest links or the most ruthless of them.
Yeah.
The other is that would be so crushing to Daryl.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so that was some we threw around.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
What's the name of the last episode?
Oh, geez, I don't have that right here now.
It was
Conquer. Huh.
So yeah, now I'm thinking that last episode is going to be. Well, I mean, we've known about it, or we've kind of guessed at it that last episode, 90 minutes, is going to be bad guys coming to Alexandria, trying to conquer, try to take it out.
Right, but
so
I don't
whether it's a scavenger, I don't think it'll be Negan.
I don't think it'll be Negan.
He's too big. It's too
early.
I
think it's way too early for Negan. I mean, granted, they don't have to follow the books, but I think it's important that they follow the books with regards to him in terms of they have to introduce the other communities first.
Yeah, because I mean, that would be basically
because his whole deal is that he's basically got all these communities by the balls.
Well, this is basically what we did. This episode is basically issue 72 of the comic book. Right. Negan is around 100.
Yeah, it's down.
So that's like a 28 issue jump. I mean, that's
yeah. I don't see that happening. I think they got to establish the other communities, and the fact that they're all going to start trying to work together or whatever, and then Negan steps in and does, like in the book, and he exerts his control over all of them, which then of course sets up the whole thing for the all-out war. So it kind of has to flow that way. I mean, unless they write it a whole nother way, but so I don't think it's going to be Negan, but I think that the big deal at the end of this, the reason we're going 90 minutes and everything, is I think we're going to get a combination of two huge things from the comics. Three, I guess, if you include the scavengers. We're going to get the scavengers. The idea of conquer, I think, is a great insight. I think they'll come try to conquer Alexandria, and the crew will conquer their inner turmoil about whether to balance the Alexandria and their outside animalistic kind of you know what I mean? They'll conquer all of that and everything else. But so you got that. Then I think you're going to have the Horde. Obviously, I think that comes through at that point. But Carl getting shot, and again, this is big spoilers. But I think that could be the big cliffhanger as it was in the comic.
Yep.
So I think that's the extra 90 minutes. I think that's what everybody's going to forget about. Yep. Now, that led me thinking that there's one huge dynamic that's different in the TV show than from the comic that could greatly affect the outcome of that shot. And that's Judith. Judith does not exist in the comic book at this point. She dies as an infant at the prison.
Right.
If Carl were to have died,
don't get too much into Carl, but
okay, but I think it's possible that Carl could. Now you got me worried to spoil. uh, People who don't want to be spoiled, but in terms of the comic and potential, these are not spoilers for the show, obviously, because we don't know what's going to happen on the show. So these are just speculations and everything else based on the comic. But if you don't want to hear that, then definitely turn off or jump ahead. But um, he could die instead of being wounded the way he's wounded in the comic, because then Rick would still have a child that he has to raise, and you know she could grow up to take on the role of his child, and what Carl's doing in the comic book now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if in the comic he had died, it would have been a huge. It would have ripped apart the
Well,
basis.
it would solve the problem of the child actor growing up. As this series goes on.
Yeah,
Walt from Lost.
right,
It would erase that problem.
right.
Um, that's
I don't know. It
interesting.
just I never when we were going back and forth with all these ideas, and all of a sudden it just occurred to me that, the story kind of needs Rick to have a child,
Well, he
but
needs that. Yeah, he needs that anchor to
right, needs that
yeah.
anchor. He needs to be a father figure
Hmm.
as well as a leader and
An
um
adulterer.
and an adulterer, right? And and in the comic it's Carl because Judith is dead, but since Judith is in the TV show, I could see where. Plus, Deanna says to Judith in this episode,
Right.
I envy you. You're going to get to see what this place is like, which to me is kind of a little bit of foreshadowing because, we get that huge time jump in the comic book
Yeah.
and we see what happens to Alexandria way down the road with under Rick and of course Carl plays a huge part in that in the comic, but in the TV show it could be different. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. And there's lots of talk online from quotes from different people from the show that about how upsetting the show the finale is going to be, and how, I mean, they say that all the time,
Right.
but still supposedly there's going to be a real big emotional roller coaster ride and very upsetting. And of course him getting shot in the face would be that as well. But if he was to die, I think people would be shocked. I think that would rock their world. Plus it gets them out of having to kill a baby.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So it's just an idea. Another one of those crazy predictions. I got to come up with a intro for the crazy prediction section now.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here.
We got some letters.
Well, wait. What was your character of the week?
I would say it was Daryl and Aaron. I'd say both of them. And zombie kill of the week. Didn't really have one.
There's one when they were there. At some point, there was like a. I don't think it was the horse. It wasn't the horse. There was another one. There was like a skeleton, an animal skeleton laying out there. And I think Daryl kicks one in the head, and the walker goes in like face first and takes the ribs to the face. That was mine. That was awesome.
Okay. What was your character of the week?
Carol,
right?
easy.
Had to be. Yeah.
All right, let's do some letters.
All
I'll go.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm doing Gijo.
Yes, you are.
All right, so we got a write in from a new writer, Gijo. Man, did you get the symbolism of the horse? That was the wild side of Daryl. It had belonged to the humans before, and, quote, the more it is in the wild, the more it becomes what it really is. When the walkers took it out, it was a small realization that he, Daryl, would die eventually too if he kept running. Aaron helped him realize that, and Aaron is the one who brought him into his home. They are both kind of outcasts because of who they are, as well as the horse. Such fantastic writing. Can't wait to see that motorcycle. I agree with you.
Yeah, that's going to be badass.
Yeah. I was worried that it was going to get boring, but boy, does it look like I am going to be wrong. The tension is ramping up in so many ways. Rick is really the new Shane, quote, or in parentheses, wife thief. The W on the forehead of the walker, and Carol. I was worried she was about to say, "Look at the flowers, kid." Damn. You guys have mentioned that she is such a great person in real life, but the choice she gives that kid, get eaten alive or cookies. She's a great actress. Also, Sasha about to lose it. The A peeps need to be debriefed. All I would say is that there were people out there who are literally trying to eat us alive. They are so clueless. So happy with this episode.
Yeah, I have to say I think he's hit on something there too. Is that why aren't isn't this group, I mean, granted, for drama's sake and the story, they got to, they're doing it this way, which is kind of cool. But I would think all of these people would be confronting them constantly with the fact that, guys, this is not, you know, the world out there is like cannibals and, crazy
Hmm.
people and, you know, this isn't going to work. You know what I mean? I mean, even Rick hasn't had that conversation, other than when he's doing the video recording.
Hmm.
He said people out there are measuring you and all this stuff, but I mean, he didn't say people tried to eat us,
Right.
right? I
I
mean,
don't think that. Yeah, they have no idea what the horror that is actually out
no,
there. Yeah.
right? Laura will swink, Willie swink, Laura will swink, Laura Willie swink. Sorry, if I say it 5 times, maybe I'll get close.
Seriously,
Jeff
we've
and
only been
Kirk.
saying her name for what, 2 seasons now?
I know, right? Jeff and Kirk, greetings and salutations. I got to say that I really loved this episode. Last week, I felt a bit discombobulated by the group being in Alexandria. It was like our beloved Walking Dead crew got dropped into an episode of Parenthood and all their first world problems. This week, that feeling was expanded upon, but I kind of loved how we were able to see everyone's reactions to it. And maybe I'm just settling into this new Pleasantville like our group is. I love Sasha's PTSD and freaking out over the fact that these people are having dinner party while her boyfriend had become dinner not too long ago. Excellent.
Mm.
Her reaction was the most realistic and rational. I agree. It's like I'm just saying now. I mean, they all should be like people. You have no idea. I like that Abe was distrustful until he found out they had beer. And Rick is becoming even more Shane like now, taking a shine to a married woman and eyeing her husband the same way Shane eyed Rick through the periscope of his rifle in the woods way back in season one. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good callback. But as a true Daryl fangirl, this episode really broke my heart for him in a good way. It looked like he was nearly in tears when he saw his new hog. I love how Aaron understood that all Daryl needed to feel accepted was to have a purpose. And I love how he explained it to him. Quote, the difference between a good guy and a bad guy, unquote. And I am in total agreement with your prediction, Kirk, though I don't read the comics, so I don't know who Dwayne is. I do think that Daryl will get exiled, but I don't think Deanna will do it. I actually think it will be Rick. What I wonder, though, is what action can Daryl take that would be terrible enough for Rick to do that? And then she adds, here's kind of a fun suggestion, fellas. One thing that none of the other podcasts do that I listen to is pose questions of their listeners. This might be a fun, interactive audience participation addition to your podcast. After almost 5 seasons of the show, there are plenty of queries to choose from. Here's one for you guys for starters. What is your favorite heroic Walking Dead moment? So
Huh.
that's something we have to think about. Maybe we should pose questions like that to everybody and have people write in, or
Yeah.
that would be cool.
All right.
I don't know. I have to think about that. I know there's so many. Okay, you go.
All right. Thomas Reese. I'm going to abridge this one because it's pretty long, but he gives Forget 3.0 headshots. Forget was the poorest episode of the season thus far, but there were some great moments. First off, I have a confession. I ventured out and tried a few other Walking Dead podcasts. Bottom line, they all sucked. Your guys' attention to detail and the structure of the show is unmatched. You guys are true fans, and it shows. Keep up the good work. Thank you
Oh,
very
that's
much.
sweet.
That
Thank you very
was
much.
we appreciate that. All right, the good. Looks like you guys are right about Daryl venturing out. He isn't deserting or being exiled, but the writers have introduced a plot device that'll enable him to encounter new characters and conflict, which will unite the two worlds in and outside the gates of Alexandria. I like the parallel between Buttons and Daryl. While the animal can't be domesticated, and if he gets lazy, gets eaten by walkers. Michonne hanging up the sword was a nice visual and a nice addition to her arc. It'll be monumental when she's forced to take it down. Absolutely, I'm looking at that. It's, when she put that thing up, that was the whole thing I was thinking. Was like, I'm
Yeah,
basically can't wait for the moment when she's got to pull that thing down.
I think you only got to wait probably 2 more episodes. That's
Exactly.
my guess.
His bad. Why is Deanna so reluctant to increase security? She brought the group in for a reason. If she's going to push back on everything they suggest, it kind of defeats the purpose. I agree, and we talked about this. We mentioned this, and I also think it just shows just how clueless they are about what they're up against.
But I don't see her pushing back. How is she pushing back? She's agreed to everything that he's suggested. as far as I remember. I mean, she does say things like, "We haven't needed it, we don't need it, maybe we don't," blah, blah. I agree, but she's gone ahead with everything that they've suggested. But anyway, go. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
But you'll probably do it again. The people at the party pissed me off. They needed to take that bougie attitude back to their walk-in wardrobes and pull out their finest red shirt because they're good as dead. That was pretty funny.
Love that.
Daryl flip-flopped real quick. I guess if someone gave me a free motorcycle and spaghetti, I'd lighten up too. But come on, that was quick.
I don't got to build the damn thing. It's not exactly free.
Exactly. I don't like where they're going with Rick's character. He isn't immoral or despicable and would never contemplate murdering in cold blood to take someone's wife. It just seems forced, and I don't like it. I guess it'll be more meaningful later on when he steps back from the edge.
I am going to interrupt again.
Told you.
As you knew I would, but it's something I forgot that he just touched on, and I remember not liking that in the comic as well. Do you? Like when he turns in the comic and there's the big, the cliffhanger ending, and he says, "And we'll take this place if if that's what comes out." I remember not thinking, that's not Rick. You know what I mean? And I mean, they're being faithful to the book, but I remember in the book I didn't care for that either. Anyway, go ahead.
His ugly was good. Carol, the scene with her threatening the kid was pretty horrific. The way she slowly inched closer to him but never raised her voice or made threatening gestures was spooky as hell. She was so nice and pleasant and calm, all the while telling this cute 12-year-old child that she was going to kidnap him and feed him to walkers. Brilliant scene. His character of the week was Carol, and since there weren't many to choose from, he went with the Daryl boot stomp for the zombie kill. Before you read the next one, someone put up a picture on they tweeted a picture that they had drawn. It was something like Carol's daycare, and it had the boy tied to the tree, and then another kid face down in the flowers.
Yeah. Celtics tweeted that as well. I had another thought that I forgot to write down for my my crazy predictions. But what if Negan takes out Carol by tying her to a tree and leaving her for walkers to eat her? Would that be wild? I mean, talk about calling back to this moment.
She's foreshadowed her own demise.
Yeah, that would be wild.
Yeah.
Because that was a pretty detailed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was no off the cuff kind of thing. She really thought through what was going to terrify that kid. Leslie Cox writes, I'm hesitant to say that I liked this episode as much as I've liked the rest because I don't want you to think I'm a fluffy little bunny who just likes them all. Leslie, we know you're a fluffy little bunny. Come on. I really don't. Well, not always. I've just particularly enjoyed this half season, but I'm happy to give this one a 4.7 headshots. I liked it because of the way it began to build up my tensions and suspicions as the episode progressed. It was written in such a way that I couldn't put my finger on what's wrong in Alexandria. I'm just increasingly sure that something is. Don't quite know what it is, though. I don't know if anyone's read Watership Down by Richard Adams. It's a book about
Watership Down is classic. I love it.
It's a book about a group of rabbits who are having to move from their old warren to find a new safe haven. Highly recommended it, by the way. There's an episode in the book where the rabbits find a wonderful warren. It seems to be perfect for them in every way until they find out that the local farmer is actually farming them and just helping himself to rabbits from the warren for the pot. Alexandria reminds me of that. The resident rabbits were in denial about what was happening to them and just enjoyed their wonderful warren. Ugh, that's kind of spooky. It sounds more like Terminus, though. Good. I enjoyed Daryl Aaron byplay and the discovery of the bike. Bad. Poor Sasha. She's suffering from PTSD. In my view, I'm not sure what's going to happen to her. She seems very isolated, just when she probably shouldn't be. Ugly was a good ugly. Carol. How scary was that? And didn't she portray it well? Flippin' eek, poor kid will have nightmares for the rest of his life. I'm not sure he still won't tell his mom, though. I wouldn't put money on him keeping quiet because of the horrific threat. Yeah, I think that's where that chocolate's going to come in. So her character of the week is Carol. Loved her this week. Kill of the week, the group of kills around poor old Buttons. I hated that scene, and I was fiercely glad Daryl and Aaron killed the walkers. I certainly wanted to myself. Sorry if I've rambled on a bit. That's okay. You're allowed, Leslie. Go for it.
Leslie, you fluffy little bunny.
You fluffy little bunny. Yeah, I like that. She foreshadowed her own comment about the bunnies.
It's true.
And there was no hammer in here, though. There's no reference to a hammer.
Kirk will see meaning and metaphor in anything. All right, Gary Dombrowski.
What do you mean by that?
This week's episode was a bit slow, although some interesting things happened. The good, I really liked the interaction between Daryl and Aaron. I liked how Aaron was able to bring Daryl around by finding a way for him to be a part of Alexandria by being a recruiter. If anyone in Alexandria should be in a leadership position, it should be Aaron. I definitely agree. He's definitely better than Deanna at balancing the world as it is, along with how it once was. Just to think all it took to bring Daryl around was free spaghetti dinner and enough parts to put a motorcycle together. The bad, Deanna, Queen of Utopia. This woman just does not get it. In my opinion, she totally refuses to accept what the world has become. Other than a gate guard, this community has little to no interest in security. Deanna's remedy is to put her other useless son in the tower, sometimes. How about Sasha's meltdown at Deanna's cocktail party? While Sasha is a serious case of PTSD, the people of Alexandria are so out of touch with reality. The ugly. Carol frightens me. Poor Sam, the only thing missing in the scene of her talk with him, this is what I said, the talk with him was them panning down to a puddle forming around Sam's feet. How about that kiss that Rico Suave, planted on Jesse's cheek? A pretty bold move to make at a party. That's a good point. It doesn't seem like Jess and Pete's marriage is all sunshine and roses. I'm probably not the only one drawing some comparisons between Rick and Shane here. When Rick walked by Jesse and Pete at the end of the episode, did anyone see the sign that said Morgan Street? I give this somewhat ho-hum episode 3 headshots. Something you said about Carol frightening you. I read somewhere, it was somebody's review, moviepilot.com or some obscure site somewhere, where the writer said the same thing. He was like, Carol frightens me. Carol, you frighten me. You terrify me, blah, 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 but I'm probably still going to ask you to prom.
In terms of his comments about Deanna and my defending the fact that she is accepting the input from Rick and his people, but I do agree that it seems as if she thinks that by sheer power of will, she can transform the world back to the way it was. That by simply acting like the way it was, and getting enough people in there to do that and to live that way, that it'll become the reality. Instead of realizing that it will be the reality only so far as those walls are. Mm-hmm. Because outside of that walls, this will not work anymore. Mm-hmm. And, so in that sense, I agree. She continues to kind of undermine them in that regard, even though she's accepting all of his direction in terms of security. She's got to change that mentality. So Diane Maythorne wrote, let's see, Walking Dead cocktail party, #creepy. Then she wrote again, okay, last one, I promise. You don't ever want to be a horse or a little girl on The Walking Dead. Then she wrote, all right, I lied. One more, Daryl and Aaron and the motorcycle. Probably the most hopeful scene we've had since Rick reunited with his family in season 1. Mm. Yeah, well, that's not usually a good sign in The Walking Dead.
Yeah. No good can come from that.
No good can come from that. That's right. And the minute he said to him, you're good at telling a good guy from a bad guy, I was like, oh man, that's the kiss of death too.
Yeah.
He's going to make a bad call and get the wrong person. But anyway, so, overall good episode. I mean, there really hasn't, granted, it wasn't a out of the park stellar, episode in every regard, but my God, this season has been incredible. I mean, it just keeps giving. I mean, there hasn't been one episode yet of this season that I've been like, that wasn't so good. I mean, I've loved every episode, some more than others, but and some have had more issues than others, but man, it's just, they really, in my opinion, with season 4, they really kind of came into their own.
Well, they need to do something, because it's been 2 episodes now where we've been pulled around by the ear, with each of these characters trying to resolve in their heads the Alexandria versus the old life, the new life with the old life, and should we be here? All these issues. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, because we've only seen 4 characters. We assume that everybody else is around. But okay, enough. You've established it. We got it. Move on. So this next episode, which is going to be called Spend, um, let's. We know we're going to get it. We know we're going to get a healthy dose of Gabriel. So let's move this story on now, and let's see what. Let's develop something.
Well,
here.
hopefully, what they'll do is, it seems like this episode, it seems like we got resolution with Daryl. It seems like Daryl, he came to terms with the situation. Sasha still has not. Carol is still living outside the walls, and Rick is on the fence still. My guess is one of those three will come to a realization or a resolution with that struggle, and then we'll also get a whole bunch about Gabriel, since we haven't heard anything about him. And then what do we got left? 2 episodes before the finale.
2 before the finale. Spend, try, and then
so
conquer.
then try maybe will be one of the other ones will come together, and then in the finale you'll get the final one, and everyone will come together, and hopefully by then Alexandra will also realize that they've got to change their ways. But yep, I agree. All right,
well,
man.
I think we have set a new record for length of podcast. So
is this really longer than anything else?
Yes, this is.
Because they
crushed it.
Oh my god!
You need to write and you need to print out in smaller font. All right. So
I need an editor. That's
no. I need to put a remote on your microphone and just shut you off at at a certain point. Nope, you're done.
Just smile, and then when we're done, just edit me out. Just like take that whole Tyrese Hammer thing right out. Just fucking chop that shit.
All right, so if you've made it this far, congratulations.
Wake up!
Thank you. This is where I want to do 2 obligatory plugs. One is for Southgate Media Group. Make sure you check out some of the other podcasts that Southgate does. I do another podcast with Scott Malkus called Fast Talkers, which is about the Flash TV show. So if you like that, give that a listen. Pick a TV show.
That comes back, right? In a week
this week.
So? This week? No, next week. I think the 17th.
Oh, okay, the next week.
Yeah, I think it's next Tuesday.
I podcast about the show. I should know that.
I love that show. I think it's a great show.
I also want to give a shout out to one of our loyal listeners, Diane Maythorne, who
Diane.
She has ventured into the podcast realm, and she's had some hiccups trying to get her first couple episodes out, but she's determined and eager. So check out her.
I listened to that. The first episode was great.
Was it?
Yeah, it was great. It was all about the whole anti-vax thing. Situation. And I thought it was insightful. I really enjoyed it. I thought that what was great about it wasn't just 2 people rambling on about their feelings about that. It was, they had done some research and had statistics and had information to back up some of their arguments and everything else. And I found it very informative, and I enjoyed it. I'm also working on, she commissioned me to do some art for that podcast. So soon, I'm working on that this week, actually, and hopefully we'll finish that up for her this week.
Well, I'm looking forward to her episode 3, which is going to be about conspiracy theories, because I love conspiracy theories. But anyway, check out her podcast. It's called This Conversation Rocks, and you can find it at thisconversationrocks.com, and there's links on there to take you to, I think, iTunes, and I know she's on iTunes and maybe somewhere else. So go ahead and check her out.
It's a good name for a podcast.
It is.
It's a great name for a podcast.
So, all right then.
And if you want to get in touch with us, obviously you can post up at the Facebook page. You can reach us at biterspodcast at gmail.com. We tweet a lot at biterspodcast as well. I tweet at BatmanKM, and Jeff tweets at Jeff J. Marzik. And that's a good way to get to us as well. What else?
And that's it.
I recently put together a DeviantArt page finally. I don't know if I put, and what I'm doing right now is I'm just putting up I needed one place to put all the Walking Dead tribute art, because I have some of it on my website. I have a bunch of it on Instagram, but the Instagram is tough because it's small, and I wanted some place to really do it justice. So I finally did the DeviantArt page, and I've got everything from the season 4 and 5 that's done so far, and I've got to go back and put some of the other I guess the second half of season.
We should probably
4.
we should probably set up a Tumblr page and then post
I-
them one at a time.
Yeah.
From
Yeah,
the
I have a
beginning.
Tumblr too, but that like nobody follows me on Tumblr.
Well, now
Instagram, I
people
got a
will.
ton of people following me. I got on Twitter, I got a lot, and the DeviantArt has gotten a lot of attention because of the Geek Tyrant featured it. But so I want to get more stuff up on that. But definitely, people can check me out at the DeviantArt. I think it's DeviantArt/BatmanKM. So that's a good suggestion too. I got no book recommendations this week. I need a new book. You reading anything good?
Not zombie related at the moment.
No. Okay.
So we'll have to rectify that.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for listening to us. Write into us, questions, comments. We have a couple, questions, some things that we needed to find, especially the numbers for the episode numbers of the past 2 episodes. So if you're a little bit have sharper eyes than us, write in, tell us what you found, and we will catch everybody next week.
See you later, everybody. Take care. Yep.